Welcome back to Andy Cooks, the show where me, Andy, professional chef, 20 years, brings you along on my home cooking journey. And yes, they are different. And let's get straight into it today. Today I'm going to run you through my version of Drunken Chicken. And as you saw from that, we're going to serve that with a little smashed cucumber salad and some rice. So Drunken Chicken is basically chicken poached in some kind of alcohol. And there's so many versions of this dish. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the original version is served cold. There is a lot of versions that are served cold, where effectively you poach the chicken, chill it down, and then brine it in your alcohol poaching liquor overnight. And that's traditionally served in a banquet style before the hot or wok cooked dishes come out in Chinese cuisine anyway. I do versions both ways, cold and hot, and because it's winter here at the moment, we're going to do a hot version. This is an excellent recipe to have up your sleeve. If you've got a chicken hanging out in your fridge that you kind of need to cook, but you're not really ready to eat, then poach it like this, save the liquor, and you can serve it cold, or it's excellent in sandwiches, or excellent to toss through some fried rice. So it's just a really good way of poaching a chicken and preserving it a bit longer, and also makes a great entree or starts the meal. But the way I'm going to show you and focus on today is how I'm going to eat it tonight, which is hot with some rice and a little salad on the side. But let's get stuck in. This is what you're going to need. So chicken. So like most things in life, you get what you pay for. So get whatever fits your budget, get that chicken. Chicken's a fantastic protein. I love it a lot. My family are poultry farmers, so I grew up on chicken. And it's for good reason. It's probably the most favorite protein around the world. It's absolutely delicious, it's super versatile, and it's pretty affordable in most cases. I also really like to do a corn-fed chicken if you can get your hands on one. Sometimes they're not that common or not that easy to find, but if you do see a corn-fed chicken, then grab that as well. I think that's a bit tastier. And then you're gonna need some aromatics and seasoning. So obviously we're gonna need wine. So this is shaoxing cooking wine, which is a rice wine. This is the stuff that's brought in that you get in the supermarket, which has got added salt. So just be careful of that. If you're buying shaoxing wine, proper shaoxing wine, it won't have the added salt. If you buy it from the supermarket, it will have added salt. It's something to do with licensing laws, I'm not sure why. So this isn't traditional at all for the Chinese version that this is kind of derived from, but I like to salt mine with fish sauce, and this is an excellent quality fish sauce. It wasn't until recently that I started kind of diving deep into fish sauce, and this is the best one that I've found in Australia. The flavor is unbelievable compared to the other stuff that you normally would buy. It's super clean, not fishy at all. It's expensive though. I think this bottle was like 15 bucks. So if you can afford it, definitely invest in some good quality fish sauce. And then some sesame oil just to finish. And then to flavor our stock, ginger, garlic, spring onions or shallots, wherever you come from. A little bit of palm sugar. The rock sugar is probably better for this. I only had palm sugar at home. And then we've got some clove, some star anise, and some goji berries. So goji berries, from what I can understand, are pretty traditional in this dish. So we're gonna put them in there, and they're also awesome to use afterwards for garnishing. We're just gonna brine this chicken by rubbing it with salt. And what that does is it tightens up the skin. Now, I did a video on TikTok a while ago about chicken rice, Singaporean or Hankanese chicken rice, and there was a clip of me washing the chicken, and everyone freaked out in the comments saying, you're not supposed to wash chicken, it's terrible, you're gonna get sick, blah, blah, blah. And there must have been a campaign in the States that kind of went on about not washing chicken, because I couldn't believe it, right? And the argument was that you're just spreading salmonella by washing the chicken and not cleaning it up properly. So do this step at your peril. Personally, I don't have an issue with it. I don't normally wash chicken. The only time I wash it is when I am covering it in salt. But I know there is a lot of cultures out there that do wash their meats before they consume it. So don't jump in the comments and start freaking out. The only reason I'm washing this now is because I'm about to cover it in salt. Let's get stuck into that. So to wash this chicken in salt, literally all I'm doing is putting the chicken in a clean sink and using what feels like an exorbitant amount of salt and literally rubbing it into the skin. Just like that, like you're exfoliating it. You're just gonna rub that all over in the skin, in the wings, on the legs. And then we're gonna rinse it off. And then once we've rinsed it off, we can cook it. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. We've got that pretty well covered. I'm just gonna let that chill out there for a minute. We'll get the stock ready, and then we'll come back and rinse that off. So to get our aromats ready, these are all fine. We don't need to do anything to those. They're good to go to the pot. We're gonna use half of this. And as always, the recipe will be below. And also, if you could do me a huge favor, before we carry on any further, if you could stop and just smash that like button. It helps me out so much, you have no idea. So half a piece of palm sugar, it's about 30 grams. So your piece of ginger, that's kind of 2 thumb sizes. I'll put the exact number down below. And we're just gonna slice it relatively thin. That's good for the pot. Spring onions, these are some old spring onions that I had lying around. Just make sure there's not too much dirt on them. And we're just gonna cut those into 3, and they're good to go. So into the pot we go. So we've got a pot that's big enough to hold the chicken, pretty much full with water. Actually, that's probably a little bit too much. And we can get that on the heat. Pretty simply, ginger in, spring onions, goji, cloves, palm sugar, teaspoon of MSG, and then we're going to go on with our booze. So we're going to go with about 200 mils of shaoxing wine. This is our salt component. We're going to go about 40 mils of fish sauce. And I almost forgot the garlic. I've also got about 3 cloves of garlic in there as well. So back to our mate, the chicken. In cold water, we're just going to rinse that salt off. And you don't need to be too particular, but do make sure you rinse out the cavity of the chicken, because if there's usually quite a bit of blood up in there. And then make sure you clean your sink properly, or people will start freaking out. All right, so he's all clean. Now we're going to put him in the pot. In she goes. Probably could have used a bigger pot. I'm going to turn the heat down. So we've got our chicken in and the lid on. You can take the lid off once it's kind of the temperature, but that just helps it get up to temperature faster. So this is probably going to take about 45 minutes to an hour in the water, but what I like to do is bring it up to a low simmer, skim it off a bit, and leave it simmering for about half an hour, and then put the lid back on and leave it for another 20 minutes. What you don't want is like a rolling boil. We want to cook this really slowly. And as long as we're hitting an internal temperature of like 65 degrees Celsius or 150 Fahrenheit, the chicken's fully cooked. The other thing we don't want to do is to pull this out of the poaching liquid too quickly, because if you stop the cooking quickly, the chicken's just gonna dry out. So in the pot, bring it up to a really light simmer. We'll give it a skim. We'll leave that simmering for 30 minutes, and then we'll turn it off. We'll put the lid on it, and we'll leave it in there for another 20 minutes, and we'll check the temperature. But while this is cooking, let's get on with the next thing, which is our smashed cucumber salad. All right, cucumber salad. This one's pretty easy. Take your cucumber, Lebanese or continental like this. Split it down the middle in half. Give it a wash. Get your dirty tea towel out the shot. And then with the flat of your knife, just give it a smash like you're doing some garlic. And then just dice it into manageable sizes. I'm actually going to do another one because I reckon we'll eat all that. So, and I like to have leftovers in the fridge. And then the dressing, you know, I'll give you a recipe for a dressing here, but you really can make it as simple or as complicated as you like. Chicken just started boiling. A little bit of chili oil, sesame oil, and soy sauce is all you really need. We're going to give it a good pinch of salt and get in there with your hands and mix it around. And we'll set that aside for 10 minutes just for the cucumbers to drop some of their liquid. So back to our chicken, it's just come up to the boil. We're just going to skim off any fat or scum that comes to the top. And that's just going to give us a really nice clear broth when it comes to serving. Now I probably have used a pot that's a bit small, so it's not fully covered, but not to worry, should be fine. I'm gonna set a timer for 30 minutes and then I'm gonna turn the heat off and leave it. All right, let's make a little dressing for our cucumber salad. So this is my chili oil. There's a recipe for that somewhere online. Hot tip on that, currently building a website to house all my recipes. So look out for that. So we've got a teaspoon of sugar. And like I was saying, it's kind of create your own journey. It's kind of how you want it. I've got a teaspoon here of like the good stuff on the bottom of my chili oil here. I don't want like heaps of that oil. Make that 2 teaspoons. I'm gonna use fish sauce because I'm kind of in love with this fish sauce at the moment. So that's about 1.5 tablespoons. And about half a teaspoon of sesame oil. Give that a mix. Forgot the acid. So let's go rice wine vinegar, 2 teaspoons of rice wine vinegar. Now we're talking. So you can see here all the liquid that's coming off these now, and then dress our salad. Let's have a taste. Delicious. All right, so the chicken's been cooking for 30 minutes now, just on a really low heat. You can see that it hasn't even properly boiled at all. We're just gonna give it one last little skim, just to get that little bit of fat off the top. And then we're gonna put the lid on it, and we're just gonna leave that lid closed for 20 minutes, no heat whatsoever, and that will just finish cooking it through. All right, so we are fully cooked. I'm gonna pull it out carefully now, it's still hot, and there'll be heaps of liquid in the cavity. So tip that out, let it drain off properly onto a plate. So I like to serve this in a bit of a bowl so you can pour the broth over it. Before we take this off the plate, I'm just gonna cut these legs down here because there's gonna be heaps of liquid stuck in there and you don't want it all over your chopping board. So cut that down till you see the bone, and you should be able to cut through that joint super easily. Shouldn't take any kind of force at all. Then you're going to cut this drumstick from the thigh. You kind of want to keep the skin intact, like that. And again, you're cutting through the joint, so it shouldn't cause any resistance. So that hot tip, that thigh part, for me, that's the best part. A little bit of meat there for the chef. Now we've got our chicken out. Take the drumettes off. You're gonna see there's a breastbone that runs right down the center there. And all we're gonna do is get next to that breastbone, under and out. Next to that breastbone, under and out. So run your knife down, and then along the wishbone at the top and down. Take the other side off. Now, there's heaps of meat on here. This piece of meat here is called the oyster, and it's the best bit of meat on the bird. Don't even offer that to anyone, just eat it yourself. There's all this meat here that should just pull off. And this is like perfect for little stir fry the next day, or go on sandwiches with the breasts. Just gonna slice it. Then I like to be fairly generous with the broth because I like to, when I'm eating it, pour the broth over my rice and the goji berries. So fish all those goji berries out because they're delicious as well. A few coriander leaves, little drizzle of sesame oil. Stunning. So there it is, my version of drunken chicken, served hot. Can also be served cold. Just let the chicken cool down completely in the broth with a smashed cucumber salad. Fantastic meal for sharing. Super comforting, really well balanced. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Please don't forget to chuck me a like if you enjoyed this. Push the subscribe button if you're not, and we'll see you again next week for another recipe. Peace.